Nothing captures the mind quite like a ghost ship. The mystery of what happened to these peoples fires every neuron of our brains. A particularly interesting ghost ship is that of the SS Ourang Medan. The ship was found adrift in the Dutch East Indies in around 1940, although some sources claim that it was as late as 1948. Newspaper articles seem to differ on the date. The ship was allegedly found adrift, with crew members still on board. Well, the remains of the crew members on board. Each member of the crew seemed to be frozen in expressions of terror, as you can see from the picture here. The crew was also accompanied by a dog, found to be in the same position. Before the untimely demise of the crew, the porter boy was able to send a message, which is rather chilling. Here's an audio recreation of that message. SOS. We float. All officers, including the captain, dead in chart room, and on the bridge. Probably whole crew dead. Let's quickly dissect this distress call. Immediately, the Morse code jumps out. As I couldn't find any original sources for what the Morse code said, this part will remain a mystery. Also, the language used here is quite strange, although since this comes from the last surviving member of the crew, we can chalk up his strange language to distress. However, the panicked sentences of the survivor does send chills down one's spine. After the boat was found, it started to be dragged back to port, where it caught fire. The boat, then ablaze, exploded, causing it to sink into the sea. Now this is a fascinating story, but here's the thing, that's just what this is, a story. By all accounts, the ourang medan doesn't exist. There's no record of this ship ever setting sail, nor is there any transportation records. Also, the news reports I was able to dig up vary wildly in date, with some saying 1940, some 1948, and some as late as 1953. So what can we infer from the lack of records and inaccurate news reporting? One obvious example is that the ship was carrying illegal materials, so there were smugglers, and the ship didn't exist on official records because it was not official. Let's assume that this is the case. So what would they have been smuggling? Well, really, it would make sense as it was some kind of flammable explosive cargo. After all, the ship set fire and then exploded. That's a good explanation, but does it explain the bodies? Well, yes and no. Explosive and flammable contents are often toxic, so they may have succumbed to the effects of some kind of chemicals, although that doesn't necessarily explain the supposed look of terror on their faces. The boat could of course have encountered some foul play, either from pirates or some unknown entity, and it is entirely possible the destruction and lack of evidence is some evidence of a shady organisation's cover-up. And as fun as that is to think about, it's just not true. I personally don't believe this ever happened. Even the pictures I've been using might not even be attributed to the original ship. The picture of the corpse I've been using can be traced back to a blog in 2010, and I've never been able to find an original picture of the ship itself. The ourang medan seems to be a hoax, a misinformation presented as fact. However, it's still an interesting story. On a personal note, this was a fascinating discovery for me to make. After all, when you watch a top 10 list of fascinating ghost ship, you often take that for fact, so it's important to do your own research. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Sorry it's a bit of a letdown. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think this was a hoax, a cover-up, or a fictionalized example that has been treated as non-fiction? Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Unenlightened University, signing off.